In this video, I will show you how to assemble the Love Shack. Next, we'll assemble the base. For this, it just requires you to fold on the score lines as shown, and then you add glue to the small tabs on the short side and attach it to the inside of the long portion of the box. So as you can see, I just rub each corner as I do it to make sure that it adheres, and then continue doing all four sides, as you'll see. Once all four corners are adhered, we need to add the base. So we're going to add a little glue on that long tab on the short edge, and we're going to align the base panel to the edge of the tab fold. You want to line it up best you can, and what I do here is kind of line it up, rub it a little bit with my fingers, and then flip it over to apply more pressure against the table. This acts like a hinge to help attach the other three tabs. Once that tab is secure, I turn it over and add a bead of glue or adhesive to the remaining three tabs, so we can just flip over the base to attach it. Now when I flip it over, I'm careful. I like to use liquid glue so I can adjust it and try to make sure that the edges are in line with the base. And then I turn it over and apply a little pressure. In this next step, we just add the house panels first as shown. I've already done. I didn't show that step. And then the door and window frames. So for the window frames, you just only have to put glue on the outside edge. I always forget and do it the other way, unless you have an internal panel that you want to add first. And then the door frame goes in the back, and then you can add the door on top of that. No, a suggestion, I didn't do it, but you could use a embossing folder. That would look good for this step as well. And you'll see me always using a towel, wet paper towel, to clean any kind of wipes that I have. That's why I have the little paper towel there, because I'm a little messy gluer. Once the last window frame is adhered, we'll attach the two sides of the house box just to form the house portion. As you can see, we put the tab underneath the other side so it's inside. I'm always using my little wet, damp paper towel to clean up my excess glue. Always nice and handy to have. Then flip it over and do the same with the other tab. Line up the other side of the house to the tab fold and apply pressure to secure. This next step shows the optional addition of the inside panels. You can apply glue as shown just around the edges. Make sure that you put glue on the panel where the door or window won't be. If you don't want the glue to show as much as mine does, of course you can put a lighter just around the edge rather than put it so close. I want mine to be a little bit snugger. So, and I don't really mind what it looks like inside, but it just depends whether you want to see it or not. So do that for all three sides that require the two windows and the door. Again, this is optional. If you want candy to show through the windows or doors or some internal gift, then don't add the internal panels. But you could always add a tea light inside, and for a nice little glow, that would be a reason why I would add these. And also it gives it a different effect. So it's just up to what you want it to look like. Next, we'll assemble the roof piece. First, just add the panels to the end caps of the roof. Although I didn't do this on this box, for additional dimension, you could emboss these pieces before adhering. We're doing this before, so it makes it easier. You could put it on later if you'd like, after you put the roof together. Next, we'll glue together the two pieces to form the entire roof. So you add glue to that little tab on the big piece as shown, overlap the other side long piece, and then next we'll add glue to the bottom underneath the tab on the one end. And you're going to fold it over on top of the one side of the roof. Now if you use a little bit too much glue on this step, it's not that critical, as we do have roof panels that will hide the glue. And I like to flip it over to apply pressure and to also make sure the edge of the roof is flush against the tab fold. Next we'll adhere the side of the roof to the top, and we'll do this by adding glue or adhesive to the long tab of one roof edge, and then fold over the long edge back over. Make sure it's over the tab, as that will be visible when you take the roof lid off. Try to match up the edge of the folded over section to the edge of the tab fold. Flip it over and glue the other side similarly. See, it's the same step, just fold it over, align the edge to the tab fold, apply pressure, and you can do that on the table. And then after that, the only thing you need to do is attach the other roof side. You can see we do the same thing where we fold over the tab on top of the roof. Do both sides. On the last part, you'll want to add glue to the little tab as well and glue it underneath so it's not visible. So I do both at the same time. I kind of do the first little tab, and then I glue the other one, applying pressure again to make sure that everything is secure. If it isn't, if you have a little piece that isn't, you can always go back and add a little bit more glue. Like in this step, you'll see that I had a little edge open. I happen to have a little fine tip. I just added a little bit more glue. Next, we will attach the roof shingle panels. There are 4 each of 2 slightly different panels. One panel has 4 shingles and the other has 5. That's why I have them in 2 different stacks. Each roof side will have 2 of each, unless you want to do something else. That's up to you. So to put the first one, I did the smaller one with the 5 first. Add glue to like half of it, and then you're going to put it on the roof. It has to be overhanging so the roof, it holds the roof in place when you put it on the house. So make sure it's about halfway down as shown. And you'll know you want to make sure that you can see through those little holes that are in the roof. And then the next one you apply similarly. You just add a little glue halfway and then just go partial way up as shown. It's about half and half, it seems, half of it overlapping. And then continue to do that for the other 2. And just make sure the top one is almost to the top. Just make sure they're equally spaced, because we do have a piece that will cover that top piece. So do it on one side, and then you repeat on the other side. Now I try to apply a little pressure on these. It depends on the paper you use, but some of the paper, I was using thicker paper, a little fibrous. Took a little bit more pressure to make it stick. And of course I use an embossing folder on these roof panels, which sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult to adhere. As you can see, they both pretty much align to the top. And once I was up there, try to apply pressure again. In this particular situation, one of my panels came up, so I just added a little bit more glue. My handy dandy little wet paper towel to clean it up, make sure the glue doesn't stick. Then I added the top piece, glue the top piece. If it's a thick piece of cardstock, it might take a little pressure to keep it there. So just add some pressure to it until it's secure. Next we'll attach the house to the base. The way we do this is first we attach that back tab, so I'm just showing you what it looks like, but we're going to add glue to that back tab underneath. Then we're going to line up, once that's attached, we're going to line it up to the edge of the base so it lines up to the corners on one side of the short side. So it may take a little pressure since I kind of rub my fingers in there to make sure I can get some pressure and kind of apply pressure lightly from the bottom. We're creating a hinge effect so it'll be easier to glue on the rest of it. So as shown, you'll add glue or adhesive to the last three, and then you'll rotate it down and apply pressure to the tabs internally. Lightly continue adding pressure to the rest of the tabs until it's secured. The next step is assembling and adhering the porch cover. Now to show you, this is how it goes. You want to pre-fold it quite well. That long tab, it doesn't really form a box, so it's a little bit confusing, but that will go over to the edge of the box and glue internally to form the cover. This is probably the trickiest part of the project. Just want to make sure it's well scored. And what you're initially going to do is add glue on the middle tabs as shown. You see the one side. And you'll glue it to the the short side of the porch cover. On the outside, that'll be covered with another panel, so it's okay if you have a little glue leakage, but try to clean up the excess and do the other side. Once you glue those two little tabs to the side and they're secure, you'll glue the underneath tabs, and these tabs are underneath. Like I said, you can't see them. You can glue them. I usually reach in to apply pressure. And once that's done, we'll go to the next step. For this next step, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, but you push those two long tabs in that you see, and all they're going to do, we're using this just to somewhat secure that little side piece that will be folded in. So add glue on the top, and again, this won't close secure. You're going to fold it over the long piece. Right here, it takes a little to get them down. I don't want to push them too far because we want them to touch that top piece. Depending on the thickness of your cardstock, it may not hold very well, but try to push it down so at least it remains in place, because that's all it was intended to do, is keep it in place so you have time to glue on the larger tab to the box. So don't worry if it's a little loose. It should be. Once that's complete, add glue to that long piece. Again, it'll be a little flimsy, won't be completely closed, and do it also to the larger tab that will go inside the box. So you're going to line up, you're going to flip it over, get the box in place, flip it over, and line up the tab fold slightly above the edge of the top of the box. Now you may have to fold it down and make minor adjustments to make sure that it's even and not crooked. That happened to me first time I did this one. And just go and try to apply pressure from the other side. Don't worry if it flips up. I put glue on that little piece, but you can go back and do it again. I have quick drying glue, so sometimes it dries so quickly that I have to put a second coat. So if that does that to you, you can just flip it up, making sure that internal tab is secure. Add another little bit of glue as shown here. Then add pressure. I just keep pressure on it from the front and internal until it is secure. This, like I said, this is probably the trickiest part of the box, and making sure it's straight. But after this, the rest of it's pretty simple. In this step, we were applying the decorative edge, or adding the decorative edge to the cover. So just add some glue to the edge, and I flip it upside down to help glue it on, so I can align the flat edge to the table edge. And pretty simple. Just make sure there's some little cuts. That'll tell you where the corners are, and just apply pressure to adhere. Then we'll add the shutters to the windows on both sides. Then add the mat and the 2 fence pieces. There are 4 pieces included in the files, and that's so you can layer 2 fence pieces together to make it a little sturdier. So there's a total of 4 pieces, 4 fence pieces used in this project. And it's done. Just insert the lid and you have a completed project. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed making this.